You owe her an apology. She deserves respect. You're just the guy who pours concrete. My dad spat after I exposed the truth about funding her entire education. That night, I canceled every single payment and watched their precious house of cards collapse around them. Funny how quickly they noticed the construction guy once the money stopped flowing. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Right, so here's the thing. I'm the oldest sibling, 34 male, work in construction management, and apparently that makes me the family's walking tool belt slash wallet. Because I don't sit in an office or toss around buzzwords, apparently I don't count. Never mind the fact that I manage multi-million-dollar projects and keep entire crews safe and on track. Nah, according to my family, I'm just the guy who lifts things. Been doing the job for about 9 years. I don't brag. I don't send selfies from the grind. I just do what needs to be done and keep it moving. Quiet type, keeps to himself, but somehow still the first call when shit hits the fan. Funny how that works. My sister Sloane is the golden child, always has been. The one with the real potential, according to my parents. When she got accepted to this fancy university with what everyone thought was a full scholarship, my parents wouldn't shut up about it. Family gatherings, Facebook posts, the whole thing. Sloane this, Sloane that. Such a bright future. Growing up, she was always the center of attention. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't some tortured soul or whatever. I just learned early on that I wasn't the star of the show in our family. So I focused on my own path, worked construction jobs through college, paid my own way, got my degree in I just need a little time to figure things out. I'm not really sure why I did what I did next. Maybe to protect her, maybe to protect my parents from disappointment. I just quietly set up a payment plan and covered her tuition, then her rent when that fell behind, then her books, then her car insurance. It wasn't like I was some pushover. I don't know. Our parents had invested so much of their identity in her success. And I had the money. I was doing well at work, got promoted to project manager, had good savings. So I covered it all without telling anyone. Over the next 3 years, I spent more than $56,000 on her education. Never said a word about it to anyone, not to get praised or whatever. I just did it and kept my distance, checking in on holidays, sending the payments on time. Meanwhile, my parents remained completely clueless. They'd brag to relatives about Sloane's scholarship and how she was making it all on her own. I'd just sit there, drinking my coffee, saying nothing. Cal, you should take a page from your sister's book, my dad would say during family dinners. She knows how to seize opportunities, not just grinding away at some job site. I'd just nod and change the subject. What was I gonna say? Actually, Dad, your golden child is a complete fraud and I'm bankrolling her entire life? Yeah, that would have gone over real well. The funny thing is, I didn't even resent her at first. I figured she was just going through a rough patch. We all mess up sometimes, right? And honestly, I was kind of proud that I could help her out. Like, at least my grinding away was good for something. But then things started to change. The payments weren't just for tuition anymore. Suddenly, I'm getting requests for spring break trips, shopping sprees, a new laptop because hers was too slow for her design projects. All emergency stuff, apparently. It's just this once, she'd text. You know I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. I'd sigh, open my banking app, and transfer the money. And every time I'd tell myself this was the last time. But it never was. About halfway through her junior year, Sloane starts dating this guy. I'll call him Derek. Total preppy type. Pressed chinos, expensive watches, business school haircut. MBA student. The kind who says, let's circle back on that in normal conversations. Sloane's Instagram becomes like a Derek fan page overnight. Every caption is about how supportive and successful he is. How he believes in her potential. Little inside jokes with hashtags I don't understand. Whatever, not my business. Then one day, I get this email from the university's development office. They're doing some low-key donor recognition thing. Nothing major. Just a dinner where they want to thank people who've contributed more than $50,000 to student support. They specifically mentioned Sloane by name, saying they were glad to recognize her family support system. I wasn't planning to go. But before I could decline, I got a call from Sloane. She was panicking. Cal, did you get something from the school? About what? I asked. That donor dinner thing, she mumbled. They're recognizing people. I guess they included your name or something? I told her I got the email. Right. Okay, so can you not go? She said quickly, too quickly. I paused. Why? Because Derek doesn't know, she said. He thinks I have a scholarship. I could have taken that. But the direction she was dragging the conversation to is what pissed me off. She wasn't just hiding her failure. She was scrubbing me out of the story like I was some greasy stain on her designer narrative. To her, Derek was a future hedge fund prince, and I was the village blacksmith who dared to show up with dirt under his nails. I just paused. And the school? They know it's not him, she snapped. I emailed them and said you couldn't attend. Told them it was a family thing. But I need you to just back off, okay? At that point, I was getting confused. Something about her panic didn't sit right. It wasn't just about Derek. I felt it was about me, like my very existence was a threat to the house of lies she'd built. So I pushed a little. What if I just showed up? I said casually. Didn't tell mom and dad. Just sat in the back, clapped politely, then left. What exactly is so terrifying about that? There was a pause, and then her voice came back. Cutting. Come on, Cal, she said, like my name physically hurt her mouth. You work construction. You don't even have a degree. You showing up there looking like whatever you think formal means isn't just embarrassing. It ruins everything I've been building. Embarrassing for who? I asked. For me, she snapped. You don't get it. These people, they're not your crowd. It's finance, policy, international law, not flannel shirts and steel-toe boots. You walking in with your project manager energy like you're someone important? Come on. She actually laughed. What are you gonna do? Show them your calluses and tell them you supported me by pouring concrete. Real inspirational stuff. And she didn't stop there. Derek's applying to Goldman. His friends are legacy. He can't be dating someone who needed her dropout brother to Venmo her through undergrad. You showing up doesn't just ruin the vibe, it nukes it. I stayed quiet. I think that made her madder. And don't pull the whole "but I paid" card, she added, voice dripping with sarcasm. You've got your job, your little blue-collar grind. That's your lane, Cal. This is mine. Stay out of it, please. After she hung up, I just sat frozen for a minute, trying to process the fact that being financially responsible now makes you embarrassing. But at that moment, I just sat with it. Because when someone's digging their own grave, you don't grab the shovel. You wait. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was waiting for the final piece to fall. The thing that would justify burning it all down with receipts and facts while everyone was watching. She also said I gave of dad vibes. Like it's somehow shameful to be the guy who quietly paid the tuition bill she couldn't handle. But I'd invested so much already. And it was only one more year. I knew if I just stopped, the whole house of cards would come crashing down. My parents would be devastated. Sloan would be humiliated. The family would fracture. And somehow, I'd probably end up being the bad guy. After that call, I started testing the boundaries a little. Stopped replying right away to her texts. Took my time with transfers. Once, she asked for money for a textbook she urgently needed. Some digital access code or whatever. I waited 3 days before sending it. She panicked and called me 4 times. Said I was messing with her future and acting unstable. Funny how that works when you're the human ATM. Then she posted a story on Instagram. A boomerang clip with Derek, captioned, "Hard work pays off." I nearly choked on my coffee. Apparently, pressing request funds counts as hard work now. I didn't say anything right away. I waited a day, then texted her back, "Be careful how you talk about people who pay your bills. Money has a memory." She hit me with a laughing emoji. Said I was being dramatic. "Your family," she wrote. "That's what you're supposed to do." Like it was some kind of subscription service she'd been gifted for life. No thanks, no acknowledgement, just entitlement on autopilot. I stared at that message for a while. Thought about replying. Thought about telling her the tab was almost $60,000 and climbing. But what would be the point? She wasn't listening. She didn't see me as someone she owed, just someone she could use. So I stayed quiet. Not because I was afraid, because I wanted her to think I was still playing along. I wasn't going to shout. I was going to show. And when I did, she'd hear it loud and clear. Not just her, everyone. A week later, I heard from my cousin, Sloan, has been telling people I'd barely scraped through community college and wasn't ambitious enough for the real world. She even joked that I probably cheated to graduate with a construction degree. Bold words from someone who couldn't survive a semester without failing intro econ. So I started pulling the receipts. I dug out every payment confirmation, tuition, housing, textbook codes, car insurance. I screen recorded every email chain from the university. I organized everything into a PDF, not because I planned to drop it yet, but because I needed the cold comfort of knowing I wasn't crazy. That I'd carried this fantasy she was living, and she still had the nerve to call me a burden. Around the same time, my parents came over for dinner. First time in a while. I grilled steaks, laid out drinks. Thought maybe, just maybe, we could talk like adults. Midway through the meal, my dad turns to me and says, "You ever think about going back to school? Maybe business or something more, long term? More long term? I've been building hospitals, managing crews, coordinating city permits and timelines that would make a lawyer sweat. But sure, I guess unless you sit in a cubicle with Excel and a tie, it doesn't count." I said, "I manage projects worth more than this house." He chuckled. "But it's still construction, son." That word, still, like I never left the bottom. I glanced across the table. Sloan was mid-story, something about her research group, and how she was thinking of applying for a fellowship next year. Total BS. I just paid her late registration fee 2 days ago. My mom beamed and Dad actually muttered brilliant under his breath. I decided to throw a little pebble in the pond. "She ever mention how she's covering her tuition now that the scholarship's gone?" I asked casually, sipping my drink. My dad didn't even look up. "What are you talking about? Sloan's always had full funding. That's how she got into that school in the first place." I raised an eyebrow. "Right, I forgot. But things change sometimes." He cut me off, tone sharp. "Not with Sloan. She's responsible. Always has been." That part hit. Always has been. Like I wasn't the one holding the whole damn illusion together with bank transfers and stress headaches. "She ever show you a billing statement from the last year?" I pressed. Now he looked up. Cold stare. "Why would she need to? We trust her. She's not like you. Always questioning everything. Like me." That's when it clicked. They didn't just believe her. They needed to believe her. Because if the golden child wasn't golden, what did that make them? Just parents who bet everything on the wrong kid and ignored the one quietly keeping the lights on. That night, I rechecked every single payment, adjusted the budget, and made a decision. One more disrespect, one more fake humble brag, and I was done. Not in secret, not silently, but loudly, with backup and proof, while everyone was watching. About 2 months before her graduation, my mom calls about this big family dinner they're planning. "It's going to be at Giovanni's," she says, all excited. "Your father made reservations for 20 people. All the aunts and uncles are coming. Sloan's advisor might even stop by." "Sounds nice," I say. Long pause, then, "So, you'll be there, right?" Like it was an afterthought. Like they almost forgot to invite me. "Sure," I said. The weeks leading up to the dinner were a blur of work and more emergency requests from Sloan. "The graduation fee is due," she texted. "They won't let me walk without it. Need my cap and gown. Can you help? Just this once. There's this end-of-year formal. Derek's going to be there with his whole business fraternity. I need a dress. It's my last chance to network before graduation." Each time, I'd send the money. Each time, I'd tell myself it was almost over. The night of the dinner, I almost didn't go. I was tired. The project was behind schedule. I had reports to finish. But something told me I needed to be there. So I showered, put on my one decent suit, and drove to Giovanni's. The restaurant was packed with family members I barely talked to. Aunts who always asked when I was finally going to settle down. Uncles who would slap my back too hard and ask if I was still working with your hands. The dinner was exactly what you'd expect. Everyone fawning over Sloan. My uncle going on about her full-ride success, and my aunt praising her grit and discipline. Sloan's boyfriend Derek was there in his stupid blazer with the gold buttons, arm around her chair like he owned the place. I sat at the far end of the table next to my cousin's kid who spent the whole time playing games on his phone. Fine by me. After dessert, everyone's making toasts. My dad gets all choked up talking about how Sloan did it all on her own, and how proud he is that she never asked for handouts. "In this family," he said, raising his glass, "we believe in self-reliance, and nobody embodies that better than my daughter." I just sat there, thinking about the $56,000 worth of self-reliance I'd funded. Sloan is just soaking it all in, smiling and doing that fake modest thing where she keeps looking down and then back up with watery eyes. Then she stands up for her own toast. She thanks everyone individually. Her professors, her friends, her amazing boyfriend who believes in her dreams. She thanks my parents for their emotional support. She even thanks her high school math teacher who saw her potential. Not one word about me. All I was thinking about is that I literally made that morning $1,850 for her graduation fees and final transcript processing. Then she looks right at me, raises her glass, and with this weird little smirk says, "Some people throw money around to feel needed. I'm just glad I had real support, the kind that matters." Everyone laughs like she made some cute joke. Derek kisses her cheek. My dad nods like she just dropped a life-changing TED Talk, instead of casually shitting on the guy who paid her tuition. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the smirk. Maybe it was 3 years of being invisible. Maybe it was the way Derek had his arm around her chair, like he was the one who made all this possible. I stared at her. My hands were the invisible scaffolding of her whole college career, and she was up there acting like she'd built it brick by brick. Then I set my water glass down and said, "Sloan, you flunked out after freshman year. I paid for everything. You lied to everyone. And now you're pretending some guy you sleep with picked up the tab." The room went dead silent. Like, you could hear the ice melting in the water glasses. Sloane's face froze in this weird half smile like her system crashed. Derek looked confused. My mom's hand went to her chest like she was having heart problems. Sloane stuttered, That's not. I didn't. My dad's face was getting red. "What the hell are you talking about?" he demanded. I shrugged. "Just correcting the record." "Cal, stop it," Sloane hissed. "You're embarrassing yourself." My dad looked at me, then at Sloane, then back at me. "This isn't the place for whatever game you're playing." "No game," I said, pulling out my phone. "I can show you the payments, every receipt, every confirmation email, every time the school contacted me, not Derek, when there was an issue." Sloane started crying those perfect little tears that never mess up her makeup. "He's lying," she said, looking at Derek. "I don't know why he's doing this." Derek just stared at her, then at me, then back at her, slowly backing his chair away from hers. My dad pointed at me and said, "I'll never forget this. You owe your sister an apology. She stuck with school. She deserves respect, not you." Classic. The guy who actually finishes school, has a stable career, and pays his own way, plus someone else's doesn't deserve respect. But the lying, failing, mooching one does, because she smiles prettier at family photos and has the right kind of ambitions. Construction might pay the bills, but it doesn't impress at cocktail parties. I actually laughed. "Respect?" I repeated. "Dad, she's been lying to you for 3 years. To everyone, while I've been quietly paying for everything." "That's ridiculous," my mom cut in. "Sloane has a full scholarship. We've seen the letters." "From 3 years ago?" I said. "Before she failed out and lost it. Did you ever see anything after that first year?" My mom's face went blank as she tried to remember. "She didn't want to disappoint you," I said. "So she came to me instead, and I helped her. And now she's sitting here pretending it never happened." Then I dropped the whole truth. Every dollar I paid, every email from the bursar's office, every charge on her emergency credit card that I covered. "You were living off me while posting spa selfies and giving me dad vibes," I said. "You told the school to keep me away from donor events because it would ruin your image." The looks around the table were priceless. My aunts and uncles staring at their plates. Derek slowly removing his arm from Sloane's chair. "Effective today," I said, standing up and tossing my napkin on the table. "You're paying your own way. Good luck with that." Then I just walked out. As I was getting into my car, I heard footsteps behind me. It was Derek. "Hey man," he said, looking genuinely confused. "Is that true? About you paying for everything?" I just nodded. "Jesus," he said, running a hand through his perfect hair. "She told me she was on full scholarship, that her parents were helping with living expenses." "Well, now you know," I said, getting into my car. "Wait," he said. "How much are we talking about here?" "About 72,000, I said flatly. His eyes widened. "Holy shit!" "Yeah. Man, I don't know what to say." "Nothing to say," I replied. "Just thought you should know what you're getting into." That night, I went home, signed into Sloane's college portal. Yeah, it was in my name, and unchecked the box for recurring payments. I canceled the credit card I'd given her for emergencies. I removed my payment info from her apartment's online portal. I wasn't even angry. Just done. The next morning, I turned off my phone and went to work. When I finally checked it that evening, I had 11 missed calls. 6 from Sloane, 3 from my mom, 2 from my dad. Sloane had sent about 20 texts, starting with, "WTF Cal?" The school just locked my account. Then, "This isn't funny. I have finals coming up." Then, "Answer your phone." And finally, "I'm sorry, okay? Is that what you want to hear? Please call me back." I just replied with, "You told them I wasn't part of your journey." So I left it. The next day at work, my phone kept buzzing. I finally turned it off completely. My foreman noticed. "Everything okay?" he asked during lunch break. "Family drama?" I said. "Been there. You're a good worker, Cal. Don't let that shit get to you," he said. And that was that. No more questions, no judgment, just simple respect for the boundaries I'd set. It was refreshing. 2 days later, my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. She sounded confused. Cal, honey, we're trying to understand what's happening. Sloan says there's some issue with her school account. Can you please call us back? Your father is, well, he's upset, but we need to talk this out. I didn't call back. Instead, I focused on work, on the hospital renovation that was actually starting to come together, on the new management position I'd been eyeing but never had the energy to pursue because I was always dealing with Sloan's crises. Sloan's graduation was postponed because of administrative issues. That's what my aunt told me when she called to ask if I was still coming to the ceremony. I just said, "There is no ceremony yet." "What do you mean?" she asked. "Sloan's been talking about it for months. The school won't let her graduate until her account is paid," I said simply. "But I thought she had a scholarship. You should ask her about that." About a week after the dinner, I got a text from Derek of all people. "Hey man, I had no idea about any of this. I really thought she had a scholarship. This is messed up. I'm sorry. Guess Mr. Perfect MBA wasn't sticking around for a girlfriend with $56,000 in sudden debt." I found out later from my cousin that he'd broken up with her right after the dinner. Apparently, he told her he couldn't be with someone he couldn't trust. Classic business school ethics, I guess. My dad finally called again after almost 2 weeks of silence. His voice wasn't angry anymore. "The school says Sloan owes over $60,000, he said. "They won't release her degree until it's paid." "That sounds about right," I replied. "We didn't know it was that serious," he said. "Why didn't you tell us? Would it have mattered?" Silence. "She's your sister," he finally said. Like that explained everything. "And I'm your son," I replied. But that never seemed to count for much. Another long silence. "Can you help her?" he finally asked. "Just this last time?" "No," I said. "She told everyone I wasn't part of her success story. She can figure it out." He hung up without saying goodbye. I heard through my cousin that Sloan was hysterical, that my parents were fighting over whose fault it was, that no one could believe Quiet Cal had been secretly funding everything. The golden child's shine was wearing off fast. I kept going to work. I got that promotion I'd been working toward. I bought new furniture for my apartment. And for the first time in years, I slept through the night without my phone buzzing with emergency texts, asking for just a little more money. About 3 weeks after the dinner, Sloan showed up at my construction site. She pushed past security and stormed across the yard without a hard hat, looking like a complete mess. "Cal!" she yelled, making heads turn. "We need to talk right now!" Mike, my foreman, glanced over. "Need backup, boss?" The word boss hung in the air a little longer than usual. My crew watched from a distance, not nosy, just loyal. These men didn't ask about scholarships or resumes. They judged by how you handled pressure, earned respect, and owned your choices. Everything Sloan never did. I walked over calmly, handed her a hard hat. "Site rules. You're ignoring all my calls," she snapped, jamming the hat on. "The school locked me out. My credit cards are declined." I stood relaxed. "This is my workplace, Sloan." "I'm sorry, okay?" she said, finally noticing my crew watching with interest. I messed up. Behind me, a few of the guys exchanged knowing looks. These men had worked alongside me for years. They'd seen me take calls at 2 a.m. about her emergencies. They'd covered for me when I had to leave to handle her problems. "Look, maybe we can," she started. "Cal," Mike shouted from across the site, waving a clipboard. "Sorry to interrupt, boss, but Johnson and his crew need your sign-off on the electrical before they close up the east wing." 3 other guys paused their work, looking toward us expectantly. "No worries if you're tied up," Mike added, glancing at Sloan. "We can hold them for 20 minutes if needed, boss." Sloan's eyes widened slightly as she watched several men in hard hats waiting for my decision. She lowered her voice. "Everything's falling apart. The school won't release my degree. Derek left. Mom and Dad are fighting constantly." I just nodded. "That's what happens." "I don't know what to do," she said, tears starting. "I can't pay back that much money. My future is ruined." She wiped her face, voice cracking. "I asked Dad for help. After dinner. I didn't know what else to do. I stayed quiet. Just waited. He said no," she mumbled. "Said I brought this on myself. That I lied to everyone. And now I had to clean it up." I raised an eyebrow. That was new. "He was so cold about it," she added. "Said if I just told the truth, maybe things would have been different. But now? He said he wasn't bailing me out just to help me keep lying." She looked at me like that somehow made us teammates now. Like we were finally on the same side. We weren't. Before I could say anything, one of the workers walked by, nodding respectfully. "Morning, Cal. Steel delivery's on schedule." Sloan looked between us, suddenly seeing me through different eyes. "Here, I wasn't background noise. Are you enjoying this?" she asked. "Watching me fall apart while your construction friends look on?" "These men respect hard work and honesty," I said simply. Two things you might want to try sometime. But you're my brother, she pleaded. And what kind of sister have you been to me? I asked, voice level. No answer. I've got a hospital to finish, I said, turning away. You should go. She stood there for a second before finally walking toward the exit. As I headed back to check the blueprint issue, I heard one of the guys mutter, "Guess someone finally learned money doesn't grow on trees, huh?" By the time I climbed up to the second floor, she was gone. Whatever. I had actual problems to solve. I thought that was the end of it, and they would leave me alone. No. About a month after, both my parents were knocking on my door. They look different. Can we come in? Mom asks in this small voice I barely recognize. I step aside. They sit on my couch. The new one I bought with the money I wasn't sending to Sloan anymore. There's this awkward silence. My dad clears his throat like 3 times. We were wrong, he finally says. The words sound painful coming out of his mouth. We didn't realize what you were doing, how much you were carrying. Mom nods. Sloan told us everything. About the scholarship, about the emails, she pauses, about how she tried to give Derek the credit. I don't say anything. I just sit there. She's struggling, Dad continues. Had to move back home. The school won't release her degree until the balance is paid. I nod. That's usually how it works. Another long silence. We wanted to apologize, Mom says. What your father said at dinner. It was cruel. We didn't understand. I look at them both. These people who raised me, who never once asked what I was doing with my life while they were busy making Sloan the center of their universe. Okay, is all I say. Dad shifts uncomfortably. We're having some financial issues. The mortgage is behind. It's temporary, just until I can find more stable work. Ah, there it is. We wouldn't ask, Mom jumps in. But since you've been so generous with Sloan, I almost laugh. Sure, I say calmly. I'll help. Their faces light up with relief. After you've repaid every cent I gave Sloan, the relief vanishes immediately. Not today, I continue, my voice steady. Take your time. Once you've stabilized yourselves, we'll talk. No anger in my voice, no shouting, no drama, just boundaries. They look at each other, then back at me, slowly realizing what they've lost. Not just the money, but the safety net they never appreciated. The silent support that made their perfect family image possible. Dad opens his mouth like he's going to argue, then closes it again. Mom looks down at her hands. How are we supposed to come up with that kind of money? Dad finally asks. I don't know, I reply. How was I supposed to? He has no answer for that. I don't say anything more. I don't need to. They left a few minutes later with awkward goodbyes and promises to be in touch. I haven't heard from them since. Sloan got a job at a bookstore in the mall. My cousin tells me she's trying to save up for community college. My parents had to downsize from the house they always bragged about. Me? I got that promotion. Bought a small cabin upstate for weekend getaways. Started dating someone who actually asks about my day. I never made some big social media post about toxic family or whatever. Never sent angry texts. I just quietly reclaimed my life. Life moved on. I got another promotion to senior project executive, overseeing multiple sites now. My new girlfriend moved in with me. I'd hear about my family through the grapevine sometimes. Sloan got that bookstore job. My parents downsized their house. Nothing I lost sleep over. We didn't talk. Not directly. Just the occasional message through my cousin. They're doing okay. Sloan passed her midterms. Nothing personal. Nothing real. Until one day, I got a plain envelope in the mail. Inside was a check for $500 and a note in Sloan's handwriting. First installment. I know it's not much, but it's a start. L. I stared at the check. I didn't even feel proud. Just confirmed that the respect she withheld in words was now coming through in monthly payments. And for the first time, she was the one sweating deadlines. $500. Probably a week's wages for her? Maybe more. I thought about tearing it up, about sending it back, about telling her to keep it. Instead, I deposited it without responding and waited. The next month, another check arrived. $500 again. No note this time. And the month after that. And the month after that. 6 months in, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It's Sloan. Got a new phone. Just wanted to make sure you're getting the checks. I replied, I am. That's it. She tried again. I'm up to my associate's degree now. Working on transferring to state for my bachelor's. Different major this time. Accounting. I didn't reply. Not my problem anymore. The checks keep coming, though, every month like clockwork. I just deposit them without comment. Sometimes I wonder if she's expecting some grand forgiveness moment, where I text back, all is forgiven, and we go back to normal. That's not happening. Some bridges stay burned. Maybe in 10 years or whatever when the debt's cleared, we'll see. Or maybe not. Either way, I sleep just fine at night knowing I'm not anybody's ATM anymore. She can call it installments all she wants, but what she's really buying is a lesson in consequences, worth every penny. And honestly, watching her struggle through community college while working retail is probably the first time she's learning anything of actual value. The real world doesn't give A's for potential or participation trophies for good intentions. Out here, you either deliver or you don't. I delivered for years, while they treated me like some embarrassing cousin they had to tolerate at family gatherings. Now they can deliver for themselves.